Hey everybody, it's Dave here and Darren over there. We're your two old bloggers. And this happy season coming into the holidays, we are going to preview the Minnesota Vikings traveling to visit the Detroit Lions, the Motor City Kitties, who happen to be favored by 2 points in this game. How in the world can the Vikings be underdogs to a team that's below 500? We'll get into that. But first, we're going to talk about, should Jalen Reagor see more time on the offense? Should he get more snaps? Should he take them away from KJ Osborne? Good questions. Then I'm going to get into a deep dive into concussions. Yes, that impact to the brain that causes damage and how it affects the game we love and some of the players we love, in particular, Christian Darrisaw and Akayleb Evans this season. And is there a way to make it just a bit better or lessen the chance? We'll get into that. And then thirdly, we'll dive into that game against the Lions and look at how they possibly could be favored, which still blows my mind, or how the Vikings could whoop their butt, clinch the division, and come home with caps and t-shirts. Next on Two Old Bloggers. Climb in the Pocket, Daily Norseman, and Lake Monster Brewing presents Two Old Bloggers. Starting now. Hey everybody, it's Dave here again from warm southern Texas, central Texas. And Darren over there. Speaking of warm, how are things in the Great White North?
Oh, Dave. Different day, same weather patterns. But
Snow?
I don't care about the weather. I'm looking. Yeah, we got some snow a couple of days. It was really cold this week. Then it warmed up. But then when it warms up, you get snow, which means I have to shovel. So I'm either freezing or I'm shoveling. Sometimes I'm doing both.
Upper body workout.
Yeah, no. The shoulders are doing well. It's got the forearms are looking good. But hey, not I can get over that if the Vikings punch their ticket to the playoffs tomorrow. That's what I'm looking for.
Mm-hmm. Well, want to welcome everybody that's joined us so far. Michael, the Drewster is with us, and Purple Haze. All three of you have commented. I know there's more watching, so hop on in, chat, and join the show. Speaking of it, let's get this
Tell me how stupid I am for some of my Viking takes, too.
Let's get this thing going. We named it Underdog. Big exclamation point, question mark, question bang, I think it's called an interrobang. How in the world are we underdogs? We're going to get into that this week. We're also going to talk about Jalen Reagor, who you see right there on the screen. First, let's get into theme one. You wanted to talk about more Jalen Reagor versus KJ Osborne.
Yeah, I didn't think I'd be have too many opportunities this season to talk about Jalen Reagor the way things are going, but what's happened the past couple of weeks, and really with KJ Osborne, what's happened with him the whole season has been something that's come, has been on my mind the past couple of weeks, and has actually been on the mind of other people's too, who've brought this up that I've read. But yeah, Jalen Reagor. Last week, Jalen Reagor had 2 snaps, offensive snaps, in the win over the Jets. one of those snaps, he had a 38-yard catch that set up a touchdown score for the Vikings, and then he had an 8-yard run on a kind of an end around type deal, and 2 weeks against New England. Mary's here, Skull Mary. 2 weeks ago against, or not quite 2 weeks ago against New England, he also had 2 offensive snaps, and one of those was a 25-yard catch against the Patriots that also set up a score for the Vikings. So and really those two offensive snaps, that's not been a rare thing for Jalen Reagor. Actually, that's almost a lot of work for him. The way he's been utilized in the Vikings offense this year, he's gone 3 games where he hasn't had any offensive snaps at all. The most he had has been 12, and that was in the Dallas game and basically all of those snaps happened in the fourth quarter when the starters were out and we were getting blown out. So we're not really getting much production from Jalen Reagor, and Kwesi Adofo-Mensah isn't getting much production from Jalen Reagor. He isn't making much of an impact, even though Kwesi Adofo-Mensah traded 2 picks to get Reagor, 2 more lower round picks, but still, he hasn't made much of an impact on the offense. But you look at the last 2 weeks, he's made 2 big plays, and that gets me thinking. Is there should he get a bigger role? Is there a bigger role for him to play on this Vikings offense? And the guy that most obviously that he would take playing time from, I think that you can identify, is KJ Osborne. And Will Ragatz from Sports Illustrated, he when he was looking at snap counts a couple of weeks ago after the New England game, he brought up some troubling stats about Osborne in that story. And those stats were, out of 67 receivers with at least 40 targets, KJ Osborne ranked dead last in yards run per route. Out of 67 receivers with at least 40 targets, KJ Osborne ranked 66th in receiving grade. And out of 67 receivers with at least 40 targets, KJ Osborne ranked 67th in passer rating when target. And oh, by the way, KJ Osborne is currently ranked by Pro Football Focus as, out of 119 receivers, KJ Osborne is ranked 105th. I don't think I need to explain that that those aren't good rankings, and disappointing after last year. He had a pretty good year. I was talking him up. I was optimistic that he could maybe push Adam Thielen out of the number 2 role and that he would continue to progress. That has not happened. So disappointing. And I think it's because he's the number 3 guy and he plays a lot of snaps. There's for the Vikings on. I think this is impacting the Vikings offensively because Adam Thielen isn't quite what he used to be. He's not 2016, 2017 Adam Thielen. I don't think Adam Thielen. He's still effective, but I don't think he's scaring anybody out there. So it's Justin Jefferson against the world right now in a lot of cases, along with T.J. Hawkinson, who's helped out a lot. I got to admit that. But still, the offense needs room for improvement, I think. And one of the ways you can get improvement is you put in, you put players who are better and play them more. And so my feeling is maybe Jalen Reagor has more to give. If when you look at the Vikings right now, you look at the Jets game, right? Our offense was excellent in the first half. We had scored 5 out of the 6. I think 5 out of the 6. We scored 20 points in the first half against the 6th ranked defense in points against. We in that game, and we scored on, I believe, 5 of our 6 drives. And really, the one that we didn't score on was a kneel down, basically, at the end of the half. But then in the second half, we went 1 for 7 in offensive drives. To be fair, one of those was a kneel down at the end of the game too. So let's say we went 1 for 6, but 4 of those 5 non-scoring drives were 3 and outs. And that allowed the Jets to get back into the game, wear our defense out, and so
make really, it a heart attack game again.
Yeah, the 9th one we've had this year. But I just, when you look at the Vikings, there's you got to look at ways of improving this. Is there a way that the Vikings offense can be a little bit more effective? And what are your options to improve on that? Well, the trading deadline's over, so you can't trade for anybody anymore. The Vikings have just under $1 million in cap space, according to the what's the name of it? The cap, one of the cap.
Right.
I think it's over the
Over the
cap.
cap.
Anyway, they said
Mm-hmm.
so. Even if you wanted to bring in someone like the infamous Odell Beckham Jr., the Vikings probably can't because you can't. You probably can't afford him. Maybe you could move some salary around, but it'd be difficult. It'd be challenging. So
And
those two
he's not even
options.
visiting the Vikings. So
No, he isn't. But
that's
let's just say that he was a possibility. Money might be a factor.
and concerning him, there's also rumors he's already failed one physical, and people
Mm.
are worried about the recovery from the knee injury, being that he's had multiple, I think now. And so even if you had the money, it would it I don't know. It's old Odell. Oh hell yes, that would be sweet. But
Hmm.
today's Odell, I'm not so sure. Um,
True. Um, Still, you've got so the trading deadline is
gone.
that's done and dusted. Again, you don't really have any money to bring anybody in, and it's kind of late in the season for that player to have much of an impact anyway. So, if you want to improve the offense or your team as a whole, you got to look at okay, maybe the coaches can get a little bit better, and the players that you have can through the coaching can execute better during games, and those are ways to improve the team. But the other thing is, like I said, you put in a player who's underperforming and put in a player who's on the bench right now and put him in there and see if he can provide your offense with better play, better performance, and a spark. And so the Vikings offense now, whoever everybody that they got on the roster, that's their one of their options to improve the team. Jalen Reagor is an underused guy. Maybe there's good reason for that, but I think that they got to look at a way to or consider a way to give him more snaps and give him some of the snaps KJ Osborne has. Um, Now, let's be frank. You got to admit that Jalen Reagor right now he's had 6 catches for 87 yards this year, a couple of carries for 25 yards. That's it for him as far as his offensive production. And
Well,
Philly
do you
in
know how
Philly,
many snaps?
well, he's like under 50 offensive snaps, something like that, I think. Not very many.
He's it's I got something in the way. He has a grand total of 40 offensive snaps. Do you know how many snaps KJ Osborne has?
KJ Osborne had more snaps in, or had the same amount of more snaps in last week's game against the Jets than Rager's
KJ
had the whole
Osborne
season.
has exactly 600 offensive snaps so far this season versus
Yep.
40.
Hmm.
Now, as you see the numbers, I've got his offensive grades up there, and by far, they blow away the 50s of KJ Osborne. Now,
They sure do. Very small sample size, but
small
something to
40
consider.
snaps is small, yes.
Something to consider. And look, Jalen Reagor is it's be no. We have to point out that in Philly, and he had a lot of opportunity in Philly those last 2 years. He never caught more than 33 catches. Okay, if you add up his production in his 2 seasons at Philly, the other than catches, he doesn't match up with the yardage and touchdown catches that KJ Osborne had just last year in 2021. But that was last year. We're talking about this year, and you don't have to watch the game that KJ Osborne and Jalen Reagor play for more than 5 minutes to tell that Jalen Reagor is the faster, more explosive
Oh,
athlete.
yes.
He was picked in the first round for a reason. He caught 70 balls and over 1,000 yards 1 year at TCU, so he's a talent. Hasn't been able to put it together at the pro level yet, but if the Vikings want to make some incremental improvement in offense, cut down on some of those, they've got to cut down on some of those dry spells that are happening
Mhm.
every week on offense. And
Especially in third quarter.
yeah, especially in the third quarter. And as we get into the playoffs, that's going to be even more important because you're playing better teams and they're going to capitalize and going to make us pay if we have these offensive lulls. And so maybe Jalen Reagor, if Kevin O'Connell's top.
Oh, no. And we get the weekly freeze up in Yellowknife where Darren's internet goes to crap. It's got to be the weather up there. But what he's getting at, or what I can get at, is Jalen Reagor has promise. Jalen Reagor has the ability, if utilized correctly, he has the speed. He can take opposing teams over the top, and he can catch the ball most of the time. He has had previous history of dropping balls, but if he catches the ball most of the time, you can get benefit. Now, I did hear he has a hard time picking up the playbook. Well, if he's having a hard time translating the playbook, maybe he's got all the physical gifts in the world. It's just the intelligence portion of it isn't quite there. I would sit him down with a tutor. Real simple. Find out the way, how does he learn? Is he a visual learner? Is he a repeat learner? Is he a reader? Is he a listening style of learner? And then just drill that until he picks up the majority of the playbook. So it isn't an issue, and that he can come in and make a bigger impact. Now, that's just something I've heard through my beat writer friends. I don't know if it's truth, but it, just like we were talking about earlier, you want to constantly improve. That was a philosophy of the greatest colonel I ever worked with, and he went on to become a general. If you're constantly improving your position, you're going to succeed most of the time. If Jalen Reagor is working towards, with Keenan McCardell is working with him to improve, learn that playbook, learn to run the routes, learn when Kirk Cousins calls an audible what it means, he will become a bigger impact than KJ Osborne ever can. And he's going to have more opportunities too because of his pedigree. He's faster. He came in the first round. He's just as big. He blocks just as well. There's the old KJ blocks better. Well, no. PFF generally is right, especially over a long period of time. KJ, yeah, he could block, and yeah, we think he can get that first down when needed, but he isn't the big difference maker that we want Reagor to be when he gets there. And my question is it Reagor or Reagor?
I always say Reagor, but either way, I'd like to see him play a little bit more.
Me too. This first week I heard the other saying the pronunciation guide is actually Reagor. And I said, oh, I've always called him Reagor. But anyways.
Yeah. I do, but yeah, Kevin O'Connell talked this week about that he felt that Jalen was actually he was more comfortable with what the Vikings are doing on offense, which means he's more comfortable with the playbook, as you were talking about some of the potential possible struggles with the playbook, and that he had challenged Reagor, and that there might be more opportunities for him. I would like to see that if I think again, if the Vikings give maybe 10 to 15 of KJ Osborne snaps to Jalen Reagor, how much of a difference is that going to make in the Vikings offense? Can that improve them just a little bit, make them more explosive, harder to defend, so that, again, you cut down on some of those multiple 3-and-outs that we're seeing, particularly in the third quarter? That's something that's intrigued me right now, because you got a 10-2 team, and things are going pretty well, but there's certainly things that aren't going well. And one of those things is the offensive lulls that we keep on seeing game in and game out. And they always seem to happen in the same times in the game. Like you say, the third quarter, parts of the second quarter. I think, but if you got better players in there than the guys that you had previously, your offense should function better, should be harder to defend. More guys get open, more options for Kirk, and the offense just hums along better. And again, I think it's time to kind of see if Reagor can take a bigger bite out of the offensive snap pie than what he's getting right now, which is basically nothing.
Right. 2 snaps a game isn't a whole lot. And if he comes in and he lines up and he starts to, motion around the back, it's one of those types of plays, maybe a jet sweep or something, and other teams are going to look for that. But he's good at it. He's got the speed to get the ball, get around the corner, and go. But yes, if you build up and incrementally build up, it adds more weapons. It adds higher quality weapons. It's that constant improvement deal. Let's get a little bit here. Kevin O'Connell talks about winning those at the margins, winning those little bits. Well, let's improve that little bit. If Reagor can improve us that little bit, let's keep that going and get better. And that will help us going into the playoffs.
And Rager's here next year too, right? So
Yes, he's under contract.
And under contract and on a very cheap contract. And with the way he's played so far, he's not going to be looking for an extension, and he's not going to get one high-priced extension. So, using him more now, we can find out also how we can utilize him better next year, or if we can utilize him at all next year.
Yes.
In which case, that also impacts how your drafting plan, your free agency plan. Do you need to draft a wide receiver early next year because Jalen Reagor is not getting it done, and Adam Thielen's slowing down, and KJ Osborne is not all that and has not progressed from 2021. And same thing in free agency. Maybe you decide you got to throw some money at getting a more like a wide receiver with promise, and beefing up your wide receiver game, because let me tell you, the Lions are doing it. The Bears are going to be beefing up their wide receiver core next year. In Packerland, Christian Watson's starting to look good over there. Romeo Dobbs had flashes this year, so there's again continuous improvement, because you can't stay pat and expect to stay on top of the NFC North. It doesn't work that way.
Mm-hmm. Yep, I agree. And hopefully, he can improve, become the wide receiver 2 heir apparent, and be paired with Justin Jefferson for a long time. But let's see some of that this year. And like I said, develop him, get those little bits, get him better, because it could be dynamic. That brings us to the end of Theme 1, where we, of course, talk about Lewis and his absolutely beautiful scroll saw art. You still can get 20% off any piece you want. Anything that he normally has, his skull signs, or his Justin Jefferson doing the gritty, or anything, you can commission him to it. And it's 20% off with the promo code of CT Pocket. And he is damn good at what he does. And I know I talked to him a couple days ago. He's working on a big batch of the little skull signs. So should be good. Fun. Devin says we're overrating Reagor. KJ has one season of wide receiver 3, basically what Reagor had a career. Yes, but what Reagor has is the potential. And that's why I talked about the teaching methods earlier, Devin. Reagor has more speed than KJ does. That's obvious. Reagor also has size. He can block. He's bigger, I believe, than KJ. Not by much. KJ's not small either. But with that speed, if he can learn it all and learn it and commit it, and people are different styles of learners. That's just the way it is. I prefer a visual. Secondary to me is audio. There are some people that could read something and know exactly what it said and recite it like that. I can't do that. That's not me. That's not my style. You find the style of the player, because coaches are teachers, right? And if you find that style that they use that works best for them, you can get great improvement. It's just like in business. If you are the leader of your team, you can do that and groom the people coming up behind you. You hope that comes from above to you as well. It's part of life. It doesn't matter if you're a kid in school, a young football player, or my age, right? And I'm trying to learn how to do something like make videos. If you get the right stuff, it works, and you can move a whole lot further. And that's what we want for Jalen Reagor. Hopefully he can become that, because if he can, he's a steal. Literally, he was the first round draft choice. As we all know, he went right ahead of Justin Jefferson. Justin Jefferson, out of that whole draft class, is obviously the best. But if we can get 2 of those guys, basically for the price of 1, I mean, yeah, we gave some low round draft choices, the Vikings will benefit. And we already know he runs faster, better, and makes bigger plays so far this season than KJ Osborne has. And if we can take that and turn that into an advantage, especially rolling into the playoffs, we should. That's where I'm getting at. Now,
Yeah. Oh, I was just going to say, I know what Devin's saying, but I don't think that we were overrating Jalen Reagor. We just think that based on how KJ Osborne's been playing this year, and the very little we've seen of Jalen Reagor the past 2 weeks in particular, that uh, wouldn't it make sense with the Vikings struggling on offense at certain points of the game to get Reagor in there a little bit more and see if he can do in longer stretches of periods what he's doing with 2 snaps right now in the last 2 weeks. Maybe he catches another 30-yard pass in the 10 extra snaps he has, and that leads to a field goal or another touchdown that the Vikings are not getting when they're going 3 and out, 5 straight drives in the third quarter.
Exactly.
Because KJ Osborne obviously ain't helping us in the get out of those funks right now.
That's why we have these problems in the third quarter. It's not all KJ Osborne. There's a whole offense.
No, it isn't. No, that's right. Yeah.
And the calling. Now on to theme 2. This one's going to be interesting. This one I wanted to get into because of what we've seen so far this season. And I'm going to be talking about concussions, protocols, and helmets. We are going to get into it. We all know this started earlier this year when we saw this. Tua Tagovailoa got hit second game in a row. First game, he slammed his head against the turf, back in the turf, and he got up and he wobbled and almost fell down. And they said, no, they checked him out, says fine, it was a back injury. He's good to go the next week. And then next week he gets picked up, slammed into the turf, and you see the fingers do that's called
weird
fencing. I thought it was we were watching this together and I thought a severe neck injury, head injury type deal, something nerve, because the way that he acted. But it was obviously a head injury. It turned out to be a concussion the second time. In a short period of time, it was severe, and he got hauled off on a stretcher, went to the hospital, etc. Now, what is a concussion? I'm going to switch. I'll give you a definition first. Concussion is a type of traumatic brain injury, as we all know. It's abbreviated TBI, caused by a bump, blow, or jolt to the head, hit to the body that causes the head or brain to move rapidly back and forth. It's a sudden movement. It can twist something, and it also creates chemical changes. We'll get into that. When the brain, if my left hand's your skull and my right hand, my fist is there, if you sit there and you float back and forth, because there's a little bit of room, if that smashes and gets bruised and you destroy some of the brain cells, it releases a different type of chemical. And I'm trying to remember what it was. Maybe like niacin or something. Something that seems not dangerous, but it is to the brain area. And that's what happens. And it's literally, when you have a concussion, it is the brain slamming against the inside of the skull. Think of a bruised brain. That's what you're doing. You hit it hard enough, it will bust capillaries and brain cells, and you have a bruised brain. That messes with you and can cause severe problems and possibly even death if you do it hard enough. Now, there's your definition right there by the CDC. And who cannot trust the CDC? Well, we know Christian Darrisaw has had 2 this season. And he's coming off
succession.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Back to back. We also know Akayleb Evans now has 3 this season. And he was just put on IR this week so that he has at least 4 weeks to heal. Darrisaw was marked as questionable. He's passed, gone through the protocol. He's advanced. He can play Sunday, but they're putting him as questionable because they're not worried as much, or a little bit worried about him. So that's what you have, those guys having concussions. Now, how many players get concussions? We have, let's see, players getting concussions, numbers wise, the NFL tracks it. They've tracked it since 2015. Here we have the concussion data, preseason and regular seasons combined. And you can see 2015, it was 275 concussions, known concussions. They are getting better. So far as of, that's through week 12. It does not include week 13. They have 101. That's still not a good number. But you can see it's trending down. 2020 was the COVID year. That made it a little bit lower. In 2021, well, you got the double asterisk there is because we've gone to a 17-game regular season. We reduced that one preseason, but with 17 regular season games, the starters play a little bit more. So that's why those are there. But you can see the numbers are coming down a little bit. They are working to make it better. Now, part of that is they were sued. Multiple concussions leads to CTI, I think it is, which is a
CTE.
brain. Yeah, it's a CTE, brain disease. The concussions mess with, and this isn't just in football, but it causes, literally, you're taking something, smashing it in, and it doesn't rebound and grow because the brain stops its growth at a certain point, and it's before here. It's not like a muscle, you break a leg, it heals back type stuff. You don't get that full, and it could be develop almost like air pockets when they slice the brain up. They can see it. It's not just football. Like I said, anything that where you have contact with the head a lot generates concussions. Boxing is a big one. And we all remember Muhammad Ali led to Parkinson's that he had, but I'm sure if they did an autopsy, he had severe CTE on that one. There's the number one sport to get concussions is not football. It's soccer. And as we were discussing before the show, heading the football or the soccer ball can cause a lot. And we'll get into the measurements when I get into the helmets of the different forces on the hits and how a light hit may not seem significant whatsoever. But if you build up some hits in the medium range, it can be accumulative down the line. So we're trying to figure out how to fix it. To me, it's an engineering problem. Just like with cars, back in the days, we didn't have seatbelts. You didn't have an airbag. You got in an accident. Your head smashed the steering wheel, right? Cut it open. If you didn't have your seatbelt on, you went flying through the windshield, right? With the greatest of ease. It was not a good thing. So they worked on the safety factors of that. They strapped you in, right? They gave you an airbag. Race cars, they strap you in. They lock down the head. They have certain Hans devices, it's called, that hook up to the helmet to lock down the head so it can't smash forward, throwing the brain forward. And but they designed the cars also to absorb impact. I'm wondering if we could do that in football to absorb impact, and the helmet makers are working on just that. They're getting better. And we'll go over some of that right now. Let's switch screens. Here, the NFL and the Players Association have their own website dedicated concussion protocol and return to participation. You're seeing it right there.
I did not know that.
Yes, they do. It's that big of a deal. And and it goes through all the checklists, and I'll go through the checklist momentarily. Even gives pictures and drawings for the visual types. Who can identify where they need to go, etc., etc., and the return to football protocols. All this got updated as of Tua's second concussion in October. The on-the-field checklist is called a go, no-go checklist. If a player is identified to have hit his head and it's got to take two things, and exhibits symptoms, right? And there's a whole slew of symptoms it can be that suggest a concussion or a stinger. A stinger is usually when a nerve gets pinched, right in the spinal area. I thought one of the players I saw watch game last week and got it because his shoulder was down and he was constantly rubbing. That's a sign of a stinger, where two discs will compress on that nerve. But you got to remember, your nervous system is not just the brain, but it's the brain stem and your nerves going down. If they demonstrate any of that, they have to be evaluated. And they can be identified by the athletic trainer, booth athletic trainer, team physician, NFL game official, coach, teammates, the sideline, unaffiliated neurotrauma consultant. That's the dude that got fired in Miami. Or the booth UNC can identify these guys. So there's everybody on the field, basically, on the sidelines, and a few guys up in the booth can say, nope, pull him out. He needs identified. We saw him get hit in the head. He's exhibiting symptoms, right? Then they go through this go, no-go checklist deal. I know it's hard to see, but it's basically, are they showing symptoms? They have tests, right? The test in the old day was, how many fingers am I holding up? And, they go like this. How many fingers am I holding up? And you go, 4, coach. And they go, you're good to go, get back in, right? Well, it's a little bit more than that. But they have the series of tests. If they pass those and nothing seems to be wrong, they go play again, right? If they don't pass them, they can't. They go on to the locker room. They have to be taken from there to the locker room. They do more exams, and they have a neurologic exam that they can do. They can do full-blown CTEs, scans, not CTEs, neural scans, and they do have one done in the preseason. That's their base for the season, which I found interesting. The NFL takes it serious. And if all that looks good and checks out in the locker room and the player's going, dude, I'm all right, send me back, they can go back in. But if it doesn't, if any one of those things on the go, no-go checklist is bad, they're done. They're done. They're kept in there. They're kept safe. The whole works. If it's bad enough, they'll take them to the hospital. It's a serious deal. You don't want players endangering themselves and their long-time ability to play. This is where we get into the multiples. Darrisaw, Evans, even Tua, if you want to talk about it, you could possibly shorten your career. And the NFL obviously doesn't want it. We don't want it. We don't want a number one offensive tackle in the league to be gone after this season because he's had too many brain injuries. No, we want him to play a long time. Good long time, right? So they do that. Yes, Purple Haze. Part of that was Blue Tent. Yes, they'll take him in there too. Now, when we get through all of that, they've determined to have a concussion. Then they have to go through what we constantly hear is the protocol. Well, actually, it's the third part of the protocol. It's the return to play phase of it. Once you're in, right, you're done for the day. Now you've got to go through this 5-step process, 5-phase process to get back on the field. Well, I know you guys probably can't read it unless you're zooming in or watching it on a big screen. But in phase 1, it's limited activities, period. Limited light, no reading, no TV, limited. I mean, it's just a minimal, they want minimal mind usage as possible, right? They just want you to mellow out and chill, right? Phase 2, you're getting into aerobic exercises, and can you handle this? And you're being evaluated this whole time. Phase 3, football specific exercises, and you're supervised. This can be some strength training, some specific drills, but no more than about 30 minutes and constantly being monitored. Phase 4, it's club-based. You can go through all that, but no contact drills. You're the time goes up. You're going through the drills, but you can't make contact with anybody. You're constantly being monitored again. And then phase 5, once you're cleared by the club physician for full activity, you must have another neuro consultant come in, the one that's assigned to the club, do an evaluation, make sure your brain activity is back to baseline, the one you took in the preseason, and then you'll be cleared and go through. Christian Darrisaw completed phase 5 this week. The average time for a player to be in the protocol, right, from being diagnosed, he had a concussion, to when he's released from phase 5 is 9 days. I didn't know that. I didn't know it was actually that long. I always figured, hey, he got a concussion. He can turn around in a week and be back, right? Darrisaw was first concussion. That's what he was. He's back in a week. But it builds up and it tends to get longer. And as we know, Darrisaw was out much longer the second time. We don't even know if he's going to play Sunday, even though he's past that. Now, with that, we're going to look at helmets. I don't know if you noticed, I'm going to go over to helmets are tested by both the NFL and, oops, that's not what I wanted to go to, sorry. It's Climbing the Pocket website. Didn't know, we have our own at climbingthepocket.com. Go figure. Go back to this. Virginia Tech tests helmets every year. The NFL also tests helmets every year. I don't have their results for 2022, but they're similar. And the NFL has a whole list. The last one I saw was for 2020 or 2021. Improvements have been made by the helmet companies since then. Now, most teams, including the Vikings, if you see right here in the middle column, Rydell Speedflex, they use the Rydell Speedflex series of helmets to be able to play, or that's the most preferred. Michael, how many different types of helmets there are? There are, I think, I did not want to shrink that. There we go. Let me get that back. Virginia Tech tests 28 different helmets. Rydell's a big number, or a big maker. Schutt is a big maker. Viscus is another one. There's a few others that we know of. The worst one they test on this, and I hate that I keep moving that. I don't want to do that. Stop that. That's what happens when you have a trackpad. You're not doing what he wants. Okay. You see that Schutt Air Pro on the bottom.
It's their
worst graded. That's considered for varsity. The Air X Pro, it's got 3-star rating, and it's also the cheapest helmet. Now,
go figure.
When it comes to price, you might think, well, maybe price wants to go into it. The players do not have to pay for their helmets. The team does. So you wonder if there's any cheap owners that say, no, I want to go with the cheapy helmets. No, a player gets to pick out his helmet.
Dan Snyder.
Oh, well, yeah, I was thinking the same thing. But yes. But the Rydell, like I said, in the middle column here, the Speed Flex, if you look at number 14 there, that's the base Speed Flex. But the whole Speed Flex line is the most popular helmet in the NFL. They do this rating system. I'm going to switch screens real quick after you pop back in. Go back to our slideshow screen because I wanted to show you something. This is the test. They literally sit there and they, like crash dummy, it's got sensors in the neck. They impact on the sides, the backs, the fronts, all over on the head, and they measure, right? That was just a brief clip of what they do. And they measure all these helmets, and they come up, they have the sensors in them, and they get ratings. The ratings go from 0 to shitty on the bottom. The worst one that's allowed on there is the 3-star at 25.77. Okay? And if I click on this, it will tell us, gives me the weight of the helmet, 4 pounds, which is a light helmet. Most NFL helmets run between 4 1/4 and 4 3/4 pounds. That includes face mask. This is the cheapest. And they break it down by energy impact. What can cause damage? You have on a low end should cause no damage, right? Just tap, whatever. It causes no damage. High end gives you a concussion, okay? Medium is about halfway in between there, and it can give you accumulated damage, hit after hit. It builds up. So as you can see, this low end helmet is crap. It's better than anything we had before, better than what I played with. But per this, it's not so good. Like I said, most players use the Rydell Speed Flex line, and they go from a 4.49 score all the way down to a, was it 3.23? No, here's the best one, 1.69. I don't know which one Evans and Darrisaw is wearing. They're wearing Speed Flex. You can tell by looking at the helmet what type of helmet it is because of the hole placements and the cutout in the top and all that. You can tell what it is. But these helmets, protect. If I want to look at the Speed Flex Diamond, the high-end Speed Flex, this is a heavier helmet. It's like 4.8 pounds. Okay, no biggie. You're a 310-pound lineman. You can carry that extra weight on your head. That's not a big deal. Cost is around $500, right? A little bit over. And when you get to the injury factors, you can see this graph is a whole lot different than that cheap one at the bottom. You have low, the medium, you're not building a whole lot of, residual. And you have a score for the high, it's a lot lower, lot less chance of getting seriously hurt with this helmet versus the one that we looked at originally. My deal is if the helmet's protecting your head, like a shell protects an egg, the stronger that shell is, the more protection you're going to have inside, as long as it doesn't shake and rattle real bad. I did want to show, this is what happens in a concussion. This is front to back. The brain slams front, bruises the frontal cortex right here, and then it whips back and bruises the back end of the brain, or can, depending on the force of the blow. This is where in cars you can get whiplash, can give you a concussion. Not only can it hurt your neck, it can give you a concussion because your brain slaps around. Same goes for the side. You hit the side, it can hit here, the brain moves over, smack, and then it bounces back off the other side. Now, also with the side, if you get glanced and it's too hard, the brain can twist and hit the sides at the same time because it's just floating in there. There's a little gap all the way around, and it's sitting in fluid, and it can bam, against the side. That's what physically a concussion is and what we don't want it. Now, that is caused by energy, mass, energy hitting, causing the skull to move quick enough. If you can dissipate that energy, just like a race car dissipates it if they're going into the wall, you can avoid that that injury. So if you can dissipate it, and we've got a rating system here that says the best Rydell is a 1.69, why not go with a better helmet? And the best one that they tested for 2022, these are 2022 numbers, is the Viscous Zero Trench. Trench specifically designed for linemen. They like to call them speed players, right? Your corners, your running backs, all that. They tend to like a smaller helmet for some reason, even though they weigh the same, right? They're all in there. I would want to go with a better helmet, especially if I'm coming off my second concussion. Now, I want to show you the ratings on this. As you can see, we went from a 1.69, which is very good compared to that 27 point whatever. And anything I think that's under 5 gets the 5 stars. We're now down to a 0.052 for the best helmet. If you're a speed player, I'd say use the Viscous Zero if that bothers you too much. But if we look at this one, the weight is under that Rydell helmet. It's under 4 3/4 pounds. It's probably about 4.7 with face mask. Its cost, yeah, it's not cheap. You're paying $800, $900 for it. But like I said, the team's playing for it. And if you're a player for my team, you're my investment. I want you to last a long time, especially if you're good, right? And look at that rating. This is the same exact scale that we've seen on all 3 of these helmets, right? Your chance at low is minimal. Medium is just barely above minimal. And high is way lower than all the rest, right? So it is safer. It dissipates more energy, and you are less likely to get a concussion wearing this helmet.
As weird a helmet as it looks.
As weird as helmet as it looks. And there's the one team I know that uses it, San Francisco. There's a ton of players that use this helmet. Looks like a
Nick
bike
Bosa
helmet.
uses that one.
Yeah.
Nick Bosa uses that one.
Yep. And to me, it sort of looks like a weird bike helmet, motorcycle or bicycle type deal. And but you can see it's the safest helmet on the market right now. And I just hit screen lock. Great. Here we go. Hey there, Ted. How you doing, buddy? Glad to see you there. Leather helmets, there's old saying, if you're not going to be hitting with helmets, it might be safer. But one of the other big sports with concussions is rugby, and we know they use basically a leather helmet, if that. But I would like, all right, after each game, everybody's helmet gets x-rayed for cracks, right? If it's damaged, it gets replaced. That's automatic right now, everybody. Doesn't matter who the player is, after every game, all the helmets get x-rayed, which is good. The NFL's on top of this. They want to fix it. If I'm coming off my second concussion, if I'm Darrisaw, I'm going to the team trainer and say, I want the best helmet I can get. That's this one. Get me one, right? And all these companies, Viscous, Rydell, Schutt, they all do batches for the NFL. The NFL gets discounts because when they're making them for the NFL, they're making them in quantity. If a player has a big head, weird shaped head, whatever, they will do custom fittings. They will literally mold his head if he has to make the helmet for him. If I was Evans or Darrisaw, right? If I was Darrisaw, I'd immediately go to this helmet because I want to protect my career. My career is what's going to make me tons of money and set up my family, right? I don't want to be out by the time I hit my second contract because I'm only on my rookie contract now. I want to play longer. So I need to keep my head in the game and keep it safe. I'm going to put on the best helmet I can find. That is my solution, or how I'd go about this. And hopefully it works. I don't know if it does. I don't know if they will use that. Not that it doesn't work, but it does work. But it's something that you want to keep. You want to protect the brain. And speaking of protecting that brain, that brings us to the end of this segment. And what do we have always on the end of this segment? We go back
Beer.
and we talk about beer.
Which also has an impact on the brain.
Which also has yep, you got that right. Lake Monster Brewing, partners of the show. They brew great stuff. And Michael asked, do the Vikings allow players? Yes, the NFL, the league, and the players' associations, the NFL allows players to choose which helmet out of the approved helmets they can choose from. They can say no to a helmet. And some helmets have come off their list. And players have gotten pissed because they wore that. Tom Brady was one of them. Harrison Smith is one of them. They were older style helmets, and they said, no, you can't do it. But if it's on the list, the player can choose which one he wants. If I'm a player, if I'm Christian Darrisaw, I'm going with the one with the most protection possible because I want a nice long career and make hundreds of millions of dollars in the process. But we're talking about Lake Monster. I did not have a chance to look what they have on tap. I'm pretty sure it's similar to last week. Their normal stuff, but the big deal they have is tomorrow they have the holiday market. The game is in Detroit. So you're not going to the stadium. The game is in Detroit, unless you're traveling to Detroit. But the game is in Detroit. So it means you don't have to go to the stadium to watch it. You still want to watch it on TV. Guess what? Lake Monster has big screen TVs all over the place. They also have the holiday market because I can almost guarantee you, not all of your Christmas shopping's done. And if you want to partake of the local artisans, it's a perfect place to do that. Drink good beer. And if you buy enough, you get free beer. God, I love that. And it'd be a great time. Watch the game, look at great art, crafts, whatever. Drink fabulous beer. Be around your friends. Have a great time. Lake Monster over in St. Paul. That brings us to Theme 3. And you know what this is. We're going to talk...
Game preview. Game preview.
Game preview. All right, as we start normally with the numbers. Same old every week. We'll start off with the Vikings offense. Vikings offense has not changed for their PFF power ranking. They are 12th. Versus the Lions defense. Lions defense is 26 per PFF, which to me seems a little high, but okay. Football Outsiders. We have Vikings offenses now up to 18th. Overall, 19th in the pass, 16th in the run. Against, on the defensive side, Lions 19th. Overall, 17th against pass and 25th against the run. Obviously, they're bad at the run. When we look at Elias Sports Bureau, you're back at card stats, your ESPN, your NFL.com, CBS, all that. Vikings offense is down to 19th in yards, 9th in passing, 25th in rushing, which is a surprise to me. Thought we were a better rushing team. We're 10th in points, however. We've given up 30 sacks. We're 7th in turnovers. We've given up 12. When it comes to their defense, they're 32nd in yards, 27th in passing, 28th in rushing, 32nd in points. Bad. They are 27th in sacks with only 22. They have their 14th turnover differential. They're +1. And they have 14 takeaways, or they're 14th in takeaways with a total of 15. The over and under, like we discussed, 51.5 points. And as of this morning, the Lions are favored by 2 points.
Wait till we get to the Lions' offensive numbers here in a second, David.
Where they're coming up. I keep seeing Ted stuff up there, and I want to give him a call. All right, let's see.
Stay on the line, Ted. I'm going to mention you here in a couple of minutes.
Yep. They have here we go. Vikings defense, 13th. Stayed even. Per PFF loves it. I don't know where they get that from, but they love it. They have the offense of the Lions 22nd. I don't see where they get that either. But PFF's weird sometimes. Football Outsiders has our defense 18th overall, 24th against pass, 14th against the run. And there we go, losing Darren again. They have Lions offense 9th overall, pass at 11th, and 10th against the run. Elias Sports Bureau numbers. Vikings are 31st, stayed there, didn't move. On yards, 32nd in passing, 16th in rushing, 22nd in points, 16th. The defense is 16th with sacks. They have 30. They're third with differential +8. That's a big key to the Vikings' defense success is the turnovers. And they're fifth with 20 takeaways. The Lions side on their offensive side when it comes to the box score numbers are 7th in yards, 8th in passing, 11th in rushing, 6th in points. They've given up 19 sacks, and they're 12th with 14 turnovers. When we get to special teams, our special teams still 20th, stayed the same even after Greg Joseph's good day last week. It didn't move up or down. The Lions are 9th. Vikings by 14 plus tomorrow, Drew. God, from your lips.
I like it.
I hope so. Injury reports. Vikings, Bullard's out. He's got a bicep problem. Harrison Smith has a neck issue, but I suspect he'll play. Garrett Bradbury has a back issue. I suspect he'll play. Christian Darrisaw is out of protocol. The only reason he's questionable on this list is because I think the staff doesn't want to rush him back too quickly. When it comes to Lions, you see all those outs, doubtfuls, and questionables. There are only 2 starters on that entire list. They do have a big list. Their 2 starters that are questionable are nickel corner Will Harris and starting outside corner Jeff Okudah. That's it. Everybody else is backups. So now we're getting into why does Vegas like them so much?
Yeah, we know that the Vikings are underdogs going into this game in Detroit, which again seems odd when you have 5 more wins than the team that you're playing, even if you're on the road. But I wanted to mention Ted Glover, a friend of the show, also co-author of Vikings Report, which just had their new show drop this morning. He brought something up this week, and I wanted to mention that. I think it's important in this game to look at as my dog keeps fucking barking. Anyway, but I think it's something I wanted to bring up is the quality of the competition that both teams have faced the past 5 games. Lions are 4-1, getting a lot of love right now because they're 4-1. I'm not disputing that they're not a much better team than they were last year or even at the beginning of this year, but they're 4-1. The Vikings are also 4-1 over that stretch. The Lions, the combined record of the teams the Lions have faced is 28-33-1. The combined record of the teams that the Vikings have faced during that stretch is 38-22-1. So by records, we've played a much more difficult slate of teams.
And we're also 9-1 over our last 10 games.
Yeah, and then you've got the Pro Football Focus rankings up there of the teams we'd faced. Again, you can see the Vikings faced the Bills, Dallas, the Jets, first, second, and ninth in Football Outsiders DVOA. Patriots 12th, not too shabby. Washington 17th. That was the worst team we
Mm-hmm.
faced thus far.
Defense wise.
The Lions again faced the Bears 29th in DVO, Jaguars 24th, Giants 21st, that team from Wisconsin 15th, and Bills the first. So whether you want to go by winning the records of the teams that both teams have faced the past 5 games, or a football analytics site like Football Outsiders, the Vikings have got the
Had the
same
tougher.
record,
Mm-hmm.
but a much tougher opponents that they have faced. So I don't know what that means going into
Well,
tomorrow,
and of course you
but
hear the Detroit fans. We almost beat Buffalo,
yeah, but
and
we
Ali
did
turns
beat
around and goes,
Buffalo.
"We did beat Buffalo."
So, if you're hearing people squawking that the Vikings are like gonna lose tomorrow, they don't have a chance. I don't know if anybody's saying that, but if they are, just look at the teams that we've both faced, and look at their records and their rankings, and see if there's just keep that in mind tomorrow anyway. But records aside, this is a game that. We saw the stats earlier. This is a game where I think the Vikings offense has to do the heavy lifting again, because the Lions are playing really good on offense right now. Yes, they haven't really faced great defenses during that stretch, but you can't discount what they've done even against it's the NFL. They've been very productive, and they've been very productive all season. They're actually the sixth scoring offense, they're sixth in scoring in average points per game, 26.3. That's pretty damn good, better than the Vikings, who are right
Mm-hmm.
now 11th. I think the Vikings offense has to do the heavy lifting tomorrow. They've got to. We talked about the dry spells. They can't be having this multiple 5 drives in a row, 3 and outs. In that case, we've got to be moving the ball, having long clock killing drives, and scoring touchdowns and not kicking field goals. I mean that's a recipe for success every game. But when you're
Mm-hmm.
facing a pretty good an offense that's just functioning really, really well right now, it's even more important that you do that. And I think the Vikings here, the offense has played pretty well against some very tough defenses the past 5 weeks, and they're facing a defense that isn't really very good tomorrow. So this is a game where I expect the Vikings. I really expect the Vikings to be able to do that heavy lifting, because the Lions defense. They played a little bit better lately, but they don't have really a whole lot of any elite talent on the defense right now.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, Drew. Aiden Hutchinson looks like he's going to be really good. I think he's a good player right now. I don't think he's not quite a game wrecker right now, but and if you look at again Pro Football Focus rankings, the top rated Lions defensive player is Deshaun Elliott, who's ranked 28th out of 88 safeties in the NFL right now. He's their top ranked player on defense. So the Vikings, they should be able to move the ball. Like Kirk Cousins, and then they don't defend the run all that well. So Dalvin Cook should be a factor, as he usually is against Detroit. They don't rush the passer all that well. Aiden Hutchinson's their top guy with 6 sacks. So Kirk Cousins, and if Darrisaw's back, that's going to lead to better protection along the offensive line, more time for Kirk Cousins to throw. And we know when he has time to throw, he really thrives and picks defenses apart. And he's facing a defense. If he has time to throw against this Detroit defense, I think there's going to be a lot of success there. Now, we can't have Justin Jefferson having only 3 catches for 14 yards like he did the last game against Detroit. But I'm confident that won't happen, because Kevin O'Connell's done a much better job of moving JJ around and not letting coverages dictate when the ball gets thrown to Justin Jefferson. So I don't see him getting shut down like he did in that first game
First
against
game.
Detroit, particularly after last week where he had a tough go of it against the Jets, playing against some very good corners. Offensively, I feel very good coming into this game. Um, I think when you had a picture of Dan Campbell up there, and
Mm-hmm.
I think defensively, one of the things that's really challenging when you face Detroit is that uh, you've got to be, as a defense, prepared to defend for 4 downs, not 3 downs, because they gamble on 4th down a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, 26. They've only the Cardinals go for it more on 4th down than the Detroit Lions. The Lions have gambled, have have gambled on fourth down 26 times this year. They've converted half of them, so 50%. But I think that's a unique challenge and against for a defense because if especially if Detroit gets around midfield or into our territory, if it's 4th and 1 or 4th and 2 or even 4th and 3 and 4th and 4, they're not punting the ball or settling for field goals. They're going for it on fourth down and trying to score touchdowns. And so for a defense, Ed Donatell's defense, your job isn't over if you stop them from getting a first down on third down,
Right.
because Dan Campbell's aggressive and he's going to go for it on fourth down. And they did that again in the first game against the Vikings. They went for it 4 times on fourth down. They converted 4 of those. So I think that's a unique challenge that defenses that are facing the Lions are deal with, and it's one that Ed Donatell's defense is going to face tomorrow, and they've had trouble getting off the field a lot of times.
Well, the biggest
I'll be interested. Yeah.
biggest weapon I was about to say is not DeAndre Swift. Actually, he's good. It's this guy.
Well, yeah, it is that guy. I'll be interested to see if Dan Campbell continues to be that aggressive, though, Dave, because I think now that the Lions are kind of a fringe playoff candidate, there's a lot more on the line for them in games than, he's not just gambling and trying to get the first win of the season or the first road win of
He's
his
trying to get a wild
coaching
card
career.
spot.
He's trying to get a wild card spot, and maybe that impacts his go for it mantra that he's had for 2 seasons now. Maybe he gets a little tighter, maybe a little bit more conservative. We'll see. But that's just something that you've got to watch out for with the Vikings. The other guy that you got to watch out for, the guy that makes this whole offense go, in my opinion, is the guy right there, Amon-Ra St. Brown. Over 70 catches so far this year. He's not like the big yardage guy like Justin Jefferson. But he's an excellent wide receiver. Knows how to run the routes, great hands, great taking with yards after the catch, and the Lions, as you would with your best offensive player, they scheme ways to get him open. And also he's a guy that he's going to eat up that soft shell, that giving backing off 5 or 6 yards off the line of scrimmage kind of defensive philosophy that Ed Donatell and our defense takes. He'll eat that up. So I really, if I'm Ed Donatell, I don't expect to see it tomorrow, but I would be like, I'd make them like we hear about the Patriots all the time. Try to give extra attention to Amon-Ra St. Brown, make the Lions play left-handed on offense, try to shut him down, press him at the line of scrimmage, because he's not a guy who catches a lot of deep throws. His longest reception this year is about 48 yards, and that was week 2. But you got to stop him. In the first game against Detroit, Detroit's offense was carving us up. Amon-Ra St. Brown was catching balls all over the place. Then he hurt his ankle. He wasn't the same player, and the Lions' offense was not as effective the rest of the game without him at 100%.
But that was early in the season. Our defense hopefully has progressed a lot further since then.
Yeah, looking at
if you look at the scores and stuff, no, it doesn't look that way. But I think play-wise, eye test, there are times when they look a lot better. Now, there's a whole lot of this bend, and not break until it's red zone, or hold and not break. But it drives us crazy. But I do think they're communicating at least better, it appears, than they did at the beginning of the season when they played the Lions.
With Amon-Ra St. Brown, make DJ Chark beat you, make Khalif Raymond beat you, make Josh Reynolds beat you, make DeAndre Swift beat you. Don't let this guy beat you, I think, is one of the things. Along with Amon-Ra St. Brown, something that the Detroit has really done really well is they've got a very good offensive line right now. Penei Sewell, Taylor Decker on the ends, Frank Ragnow in the middle. Jared Goff, it's a well-established, crumbles under pressure. If you get consistent pressure on him, he does not operate very well. And he's even, if you think Kirk Cousins is not mobile, watch Jared Goff play when he has to scramble, and you see a guy who really is not mobile and who cannot make plays when he gets rushed off his spot. So that's a big key. But This year, nobody can get pressure except the Dallas Cowboys, who are getting pressure on everybody. Nobody can get pressure on Jared Goff. He's been sacked 19 times this year. That's the third least in the NFL. And in the first game against the Vikings didn't sack him once. They barely got a hand on him, and it was a big problem, and it'll be a big problem tomorrow. So I don't know how you deal with that. Ed Donatel does not like to blitz much. I would like to see a bit more of that at certain times, but you got to be ready that this is going to be a game just like we've seen a lot of other games where the Lions are going to move the ball on us. They're going to get some yards. We just have to, like we did against the Jets, when they get deep, we have to limit them to field goals, not so much touchdowns. I think if you keep the Lions offense,
there we go. I want to answer GMAC's questions. Tomorrow you're going to see Patrick Peterson on one side, Cameron Dantzler on the other,
the Lions,
Sullivan at the nickel. Not Xavier Rhodes and Chris Cook. That was a long time ago. Drewster. But Dantzler should be all right. I don't see what corners we have, them having a terrible day. Amon St. Brown is good. He's elite. But the corner should be able to close everything down, and the safeties and the linebackers, and I think we have a defense that can stop this offense tomorrow. I don't buy into they're going to score the same amount of points as our offense. Their offense does not have the all-around talent that ours does in the weapons positions. Their offense has a better offensive line than ours does, but it does not have all the weapons when it comes to wide receivers and running backs, not of the quality that the Vikings do. So I think our defense can, and they've learned from that first game, that they can do better. Lene, our defense does blitz on occasion. It's just poorly timed and poorly executed. I don't like the way Ed does it as much. It's a frustrating point of this season.
One thing I didn't mention is when I was talking about that, we'll see how much of an impact Cam Dantzler coming back tomorrow makes on this, on our pass defense in particular. Not that Akayleb Evans and Duke Shelley played badly when they were in there, but but Dantzler is the starter because the Vikings defensive coordinator Ed Donatel feels that he's a better cornerback. I think that also the eye test tells me that. We'll see how much of a difference that makes as well, and it'll be interesting to see how Daniil Hunter operates because he was out most of the week with an illness. Is he still a bit weakened from that? Will he have
a third of the defense was out because of the illness?
Yeah,
I think it's probably the same style cold I've got. There's a bad flu bug going around here in the States, and we also know cold that's a respiratory type deal starts in the head. That's been going around. So it's I think that's what they got. And if I'm sure the sports science team have them plugged full of vitamins and all the good stuff and IVs and whatever it takes to make them ready and get them through it quickest. And
GMAC pressure. Yeah.
These guys are
pressure is key.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, pressure is key, but I don't know, based on what every other team other than Dallas has done against the Detroit Lions offensive line this year. I don't know if we're going to really be able to put on that consistent pressure. Again, if Hunter is not able, if his snaps are limited a bit, you got DJ Wanham taking more of those snaps than because Hunter's not feeling 100% or even 90%. That's going to impact, I think, our ability to pressure as well, because DJ Wanham is not the same guy as Daniil Hunter, even though Hunter's been pretty quiet the past couple of games himself.
Well, and you got to remember, they're going against Sewell.
Yes.
Hunter's going against Sewell on that side. So, he's not a bad tackle at all.
No, he's a very good one.
I think I heard considered the best right tackle in the league right now. And he's young. We happen to have the best left tackle if he plays, but we'll see.
Yep. But it's tomorrow is Drew was saying a 14 point win for the Vikings. That'd be awesome. I'm feeling that this could be a stub your toe game for the Vikings, but I expect that it's going to be close. Like 9 of our 12 games have been this year, and it's going to be fourth quarter. We're going to be like biting our fingernails once again, having a heart attack, but the Vikings have been finding a way almost
Thank you,
every
Drew.
week. And
I'll watch your show after this, like I normally do. Look forward to it. Now, tomorrow we do need to have Kirk O'Change again. I do want to see him here. I want the offensive line. Ed's getting better. You know how many pressures he's had in the last 2 games?
0.
Given up? No, he's given up 1 each in each game, which
is a big improvement.
Better. He's improving. So Kirk has time. We now have, we forgot to even mention it, TJ Hawkinson, who is now with the Vikings. There's going to be a little bit of revenge factor probably there because he wasn't utilized the way he should have been, where we're utilizing him better. That's going to help free up Justin because it's that over top, bottom, or intermediate range stuff. I think Justin Jefferson and TJ Hawkinson are going to have a big day tomorrow. I think it's going to be a good thing. A couple other people I want to see have a good game are these 2 fine gentlemen. Get some good quality runs. Keep that, mixing that up. Bang, bang, bang. Set up to play action. I think those are keys to the game. And I think JJ, like as G-Mac that said, he was embarrassed that first game. He's going to be out there for blood.
Always like a motivated player. I'm sure he's motivated anyway, but extra motivation is always good. And the run game, I expect Dalvin Cook to be very effective tomorrow, and it'd be good to see him. I think if we see Dalvin Cook at the end of the game, if we see that Dalvin Cook's had 24 or 25 carries, that's a very good sign for the Vikings because I think that means that we haven't had those multiple 3-and-outs. We've been able to work in, not that the Vikings try to run it and be balanced, but his carries are limited because we have so many 3-and-outs, especially in the third quarter. So you can't really feed him and get him going and kill the clock like we'd like to.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep. Hey, that's it. What are you going to do tomorrow if we clinch the division?
I'm going to order my divisional title T-shirt.
That's exactly what I'm doing too. After I drink and mix in a little drinking and a little debauchery tomorrow night, I am ordering the 2022 NFC North Division Champion Minnesota Vikings T-shirt.
And really important too, not just for the division, but to keep pace with the number 1 seed.
Well, I think they're still going to try. Yeah.
Hopefully the Giants can do us a solid and beat the Eagles tomorrow. Unfortunately, the Cowboys are playing the Texans, so there's no way they're losing that one. But if we lose tomorrow, we not only fall off of the pace of the number 1 seed, but the Cowboys could catch us and move up to number 2. I think if they win and we lose.
No, as long as the Eagles are above the Cowboys can never catch us. They may have a better record, but they'll never catch us.
Because we'll be divisional leaders.
We're divisional winners. That'll be a wild card. That is, we have to actually blow it over the next remainder of the season to possibly drop down to the 3rd seed. We've almost got the 2nd seed wrapped up. That's how big of a cushion we have with those 10 wins. And but we hope to get, if we could get that 1st seed, if Philadelphia stumbles between now and then and loses 2 games, right? And we don't, and we get that 1st seed, that locks up home field advantage throughout the playoffs. Gives us the week off and home field advantage. There is no travel. That is such a huge advantage when it comes to the playoffs. Yes, there are teams that have done it on the road. They're rare. The ones that have buys Now we're only got one team with a bye, and the ones that don't have to travel or travel the least have the advantage. That's why we want to keep at least the second seed. Hopefully, hope for the Eagles to stumble and we pick up the first seed, which would be fantastic. And they'll still be, you won the Super Bowl, but you were frauds. Okay, I'll take it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hey, that's the goal. So, any other things you'd like to talk about today?
No, Dave, I already mentioned them, just about the, keeping pace, try to keep on that number one seed. Don't want to be, we want the number one seed. We want the week off, and we don't want to be traveling to Philly in January, or actually February.
Traveling anywhere.
And who knows
Except
what
for
the weather's
Arizona.
going to be like.
Yep.
Yeah.
No, I agree. And I do want to thank everybody that indulged me when I was talking about concussions and helmets. I do think there's a possible solution or a better way of going about it. I hope the Vikings do that because I want these players to be around a long time and I want them to be healthy. So I do appreciate that. And hopefully you'll understand a little bit more when they talk about players with concussions and different ways that we can hopefully avoid that. We'll find out on the Reagor bit, and we'll find out tomorrow if the Vikings go in and blow the pants off them kiddies, which
Be nice.
I am hoping so bad. With that, hey, we're coming up on the holidays, so everybody be getting a good mood, have a good time, enjoy a little eggnog. I even bought ingredients for my fresh Four Roses batch eggnog today. I'm looking forward to that greatly. My grandfather passed down that recipe to me, and it is the best. I've heard too many people say, can't stand eggnog. Eggnog's gross. Well, this stuff is made from scratch. And I've had people say that. And then I've gone on the third batch of 18 eggs, hand beaten, separated, put together, half and half cream, or cream and milk, half and half basically. And that recipe's fantastic. And it's got a little bit of rum and a whole lot of bourbon. God, is it good. Oh, best eggnog you've ever had. And eggnog, people that guarantee you try this, you'll love it. And I'm in a Christmas spirit. Lights are up, trees up, listening to Christmas music. It's going to be even better tomorrow when we get to hang that 11th win and the NFC North title on the tree. What do we say, brother?
We say, Skol Vikings, baby.
Skol Vikings! Thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, and ring the bell, and rate us on your favorite aggregator. And a special shout out goes to our partners, the Daily Norseman, where the best Vikings content can be found, and to Lake Monster Brewing, home of the best beer in Minnesota. Skol, everybody.